telling me all this shit about Lisa's business when you just got caught red-handed lying about a $4 million necklace?
Talk to me about one of the most lavish gifts we've ever seen on the Housewives, that $4 million necklace. I kind of thought you were going to wear the necklace to the reunion.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 6, Episode 1. And before we get into it, let me start by saying that is how you do a premiere. Now, y'all know that last week I was at the SLC premiere party and I could not wait for y'all to see it because we have so much to talk about. And you can argue with me in the comments. That's okay. I'm ready for y'all today. But you cannot deny Lisa Barlow's impact, because how is my girl not even in the episode, yet none of these ladies could keep her name out of their mouths? That's how you know that she really is that girl of SLC. Again, whether you like Lisa Barlow or you don't like her or you're indifferent, none of us can deny that these women all want her approval, her acceptance, and her validation. And Miss Bronwyn, when I tell you that it's about to be you and I all season long, because already you are starting with your BS. And also, Bronwyn, I think it's so funny that you want to sit up there and call out Lisa Barlow when you have a hard time with the truth as well. But again, we'll talk about that later. But when I tell you guys, I thoroughly enjoyed this premiere episode. I said Salt Lake City is in their bag right now. But without further ado, let's get right on into it, because you guys already know that we don't have a minute to spare. Now, opening up the episode with Mary Cosby being the narrator versus Heather, I loved it. Now, a quick side note, when I tell you that Mary Cosby gets the most improved housewife award for me, because the way Miss Mamas is so lovely in person. Now, mind you, I have been in the room with Mary several times before, but this was my first time actually speaking to her last week. When I tell y'all, I was blown away. Y'all remember, I used to be super hard on Mary when the show first started. I thought she was cold and aloof and rude, but when I tell you, I take all that back. Mary, like I told you in person, you are an absolute sweetheart. It was a pleasure meeting you. But one of y'all made a great point saying that Mary was probably closed off in the beginning because there was so much speculation about her church and her marriage to her step-grandfather. People made her out to be a freak show. So when you put it like that, it makes sense why she wasn't trying to be around people or do any press. But I get it. Now she's able to let loose. That's no longer a major part of her story anymore. And she's able to just be herself. And we're really seeing another side of her, which we're all loving. So now we get the first scene of the episode, and we see Miss Angie K riding down the street in an RV. So we find out that a few years ago, Angie's husband, Sean, forced her to buy an RV. She wasn't initially here for it, but then she realized that it actually is fun, and she wants to have a girls' trip with all the women in her RV. Now, Angie, that's cute and all, but that's not my idea of a relaxing vacation. So I'd be passing on this invitation, just saying. So we see Angie stop at Mary's house. Mary comes out with her luggage. She's a bit confused as to why there's an RV. And she says that her grandma used to own a bunch of RVs growing up. To be in an RV with 8 other adults where you can hear their thoughts, like, that's not really fun. So now we cut to Angie's confessional where she says that it's no secret that after last year's reunion, there were several fractures in the friendships, so she's pulling the old bait and switch, having them all think that they're going on a luxurious vacation when they're going to be crammed in an RV together overnight. And I kept staring at the RV like, where is everybody going to sleep? That RV does not look big enough for 8 adults. Now, Angie getting behind the wheel of that RV really sent me over the edge. I said, if I were Mary, I would have said, girl, leave that to the pros, because I just wouldn't feel safe with Angie K behind the wheel of an RV. So now we cut to all the women waiting to be picked up. They're at the Beauty Lab parking lot, and we see Heather, Meredith, Bronwyn, Brittany, and Whitney. and they're all wondering where they're going. Heather's like, yeah, I kept asking Angie, where are we going? And she told me that it's going to be really glamorous. Whitney says, yeah, I kept asking Mary, and she said the same thing. She wouldn't budge. And Heather says that the invitation that Angie sent out had a plane over tropical water, and it said drinks, bikinis, but then it said boots. So she's like, where are we going that we would need to bring boots if we're going to be on the beach? So now Bronwyn says that she packed a bit of everything. And I said, girl, we know you did. We know that you like to pack Halloween costumes and whatever. So yeah, I'm not surprised that you packed something for every single season. Now, mind you, the only person not waiting at the Beauty Lab parking lot is Lisa Barlow. And of course, her name gets brought up because I told y'all in the beginning, Lisa Barlow really is that girl. I mean, say what you want, love her or hate her, but we cannot deny the facts. The ladies cannot keep Lisa's name out of their mouths. So they're like, wait, where's Lisa? So Meredith says, oh, Lisa's not coming. So in true Heather fashion, she gives the update of where everybody stands with each other. She says, first things first, Meredith can't stand Britani. I still don't see her for Bronwyn. We all have no idea where Mary stands with anybody. That's to be expected. And Angie, Bronwyn, and Whitney can't stand Lisa. Now, let me just stop for a minute. I'm confused as to why they still have issues with Lisa, especially Bronwyn. Bronwyn, you should be mad at yourself. I just feel like a lot of these women would not have a storyline if Lisa Barlow were not in the picture, especially when it comes to Whitney. Y'all don't understand how loud I screamed when Angie and Mary pulled up to that parking lot in that RV. Bronwyn was like, wait, what? They were all like, excuse me? Brittany's like, wait, we're not flying somewhere? I have my bikini underneath my outfit. They were like, oh girl, bless your heart. I would think the same thing if I'm getting an invitation that has a beach and says bring bikinis and drinks and a good time. I'm not going to expect that we're going camping. So I don't know why they were throwing shade at Britani like she was stupid for thinking that they were going on a beach vacation. Now, a quick question for y'all. When they all got on the RV and we cut to Bronwyn saying, I live my life as a germaphobe, and the idea of us sharing the same stale air, I don't like that. I said, wait, you're talking about you're a germaphobe? Really? But we saw you all last season with your 6 or 7 dogs pooping all over the house, and you didn't even bother to pick it up. You had Heather over your house, and there was dog poop laying around. So, girl, you're not that much of a germaphobe with that dirty house with your dogs doing their business everywhere. So again, girl, miss me with all that about, oh, I'm such a germaphobe. Well, obviously not. Your actions show otherwise. Now, Whitney, I know I whack you every season because you try it. I've named you the Ashley Darby of SLC. But Miss Mamas, this prank that you pulled with the police surrounding the RV and the whole time they were strippers, that was cute. That was a really funny touch. That was a shout out to season 2 when the whole SWAT team surrounded the Sprinter van and they were looking for Jen Shah. That was an iconic moment. Now, Mary was not here for the strippers. She was just like, oh no, where are the muscles? I was like, let me find out that Miss Mary Cosby likes to zip and zoo with the strippers every now and again. So this girls' camping trip has finally started. They're on their way there. Angie's pouring up some shots. And when I tell y'all, the way Britani cannot catch a break, because she's asking Angie, where are they going? Angie says, oh, we're going an hour away to some campsite. And so Britani's like, oh, okay, so you're going to pass by my house then. You have Mary jump in and she says, well, maybe we can drop you off. I said... Mary can't even hide her disdain for Britani. I mean, I feel bad because I think that Britani is needed for the show. I like her. I like her as a friend of. I think that Britani is harmless. She's the perfect person for Housewives. We like our housewives and our friends of the show to be delusional, fun, carefree, and Britani's all of that. So when they give her a hard time, I'm just like, Can y'all please go a bit easy on her? She's just delusional. That's it. Is it annoying sometimes? Yes, it is, but the lady means no harm. My God. Now, you know we weren't going to start off a trip without talking about Lisa. So they're like, where's Lisa? Why isn't she here on this trip? So it gets real quiet. And now we have Angie saying, well, she told me that she had some work thing to do. So now we see a flashback of, I think, a few days ago, and Lisa and Angie were on FaceTime, and we see Lisa telling Angie that she has no interest in being around Bronwyn. She's like, I don't want to spend the night with Bronwyn. That woman is psychotic. She can't tell the truth to save her life. And I have work things. I have a really full life that I don't talk about to other people, but I'm going to be spending my time with Ben Affleck and Blake Lively, and you'll be with Bronwyn. Lisa said, honey, I'm with the A-list, and you'll be with Bronwyn the liar. Now, a quick side note. When I had seen Lisa Barlow in July at the Las Culturistas award show, we talked about this season, and she said out of her own mouth verbatim that season 6 was the weirdest season that she's ever done. And the way things are being set up, I can definitely see why. But I will say though, that's the nature of these shows. Everybody has their turn having a rough season. Everybody has their turn being the fan favorite, and then they have their turn being the most hated and the villain. That's just how the cookie crumbles. Nobody gets out unscathed. And let's be so for real, a lot of y'all are so addicted to the money and the fame that despite you getting blasted by the viewers or your own castmates, you still want to be on the show, despite not having a good time. So it's really not that horrible, because if it were that bad, you just leave the show and protect your sanity. But because you don't want to do that, you like the money and the perks and the notoriety, so I can't really cry for you, Argentina, because you are getting compensated very well. And you're not that tired where you want to leave the show. So Heather says, well, it's not like Lisa to miss out on a trip. Mary co-signs and says, yeah, she doesn't miss. So now Angie says, well, I wonder if it's because of Bronwyn. And now Whitney jumps in saying, yeah, it probably is because of Bronwyn, because we all know that she's not working. Now, let's stop for a minute, because Whitney, your storyline for the last few seasons and this season is how you have a number of failed businesses. So how can you throw shade about, well, we know that Lisa doesn't work, when Lisa does have businesses? Lisa has her endorsements. She has Vita Tequila that is currently sold out on her website right now. So girl, again, I wouldn't say too much when you have a defunct jewelry line. We haven't heard anything more about that skincare line. Just saying, sis, if I were you, I would sit this out. Now, I was here for Britani calling Whitney out, because Britani says, now why would you say that? Especially when your business is getting dragged all over social media. I said, Britani, I know that's right. Please whack her. Because again, I'm confused as to why Whitney, of all people, would even open her mouth to throw shade at somebody else's business. And Whitney, when you got mad at Britani for clocking you, I said, girl, why are you mad at her? She told you right. Also, Whitney, you're always running your mouth about other people, but people can't say anything to you? Like, it's crazy to me how that works. Whitney has always been, she can dish it out, but she can't take it. Now, the way Britani struck a nerve, because Whitney was going off talking about, you don't know anything about me or my business, and what do you do for work, Britani? Suck dick? I said, really? Like, I said, Whitney, that's the best that you've got. If I were Britani, I would have laughed, because obviously I really hurt your feelings for you to take it there. And a quick side note, I have a soft spot for Britani because I've met her twice now. I met her in LA at the award show, and then I saw her again at the DirecTV party, and she is such a sweetheart. She is so funny in person, lovely, just very kind, pleasant, all the things, right? So I guess I'm kind of like partial to her because she's very lovely. But I have to say, all the SLC women are very lovely in person, all of them. Whitney, yeah, I've met everybody. And they're all very sweet. Like, that is one of the friendliest casts out of all the other cities. Because some of these other housewives on the other franchises are rude. And they think that they are A-list. Very delusional. So now we have Whitney and Britani going at it, and you have Britani saying that she's not going to allow Whitney to talk poorly about Lisa because Lisa is a true friend to her, and they're like sisters. Now, Britani, here's where you went wrong, because we all know that you and Lisa are not best friends, nor are you guys like sisters. And at the SLC premiere party last week, even Lisa said, yeah, I was confused seeing her say that because, you know, we're cool, but we're not tight like that. Now, when they pulled up to the campsite, I'm so sorry, but I would have called an Uber to take me right back home, because absolutely not. That campsite looked a mess. You see a broken down bus. There was a broke down trailer. I said, girl, what is this? Again, Angie, I would have low-key cursed you out because you sat up here and sent out this really fabulous invitation, and we pull up to this broken down campsite in an RV. Like, I would have called up an Uber Black to take me to an airport with me and my luggage so I could go on a real trip. And everybody was like, hell no. Mary was like, is this a joke? You have Whitney saying we're in a junkyard. Meredith was like, this is not real. So now we cut to Whitney's confessional, and she shares that when she was younger, her family had a Winnebago, and she actually enjoyed camping, so she doesn't mind roughing it for one night, and she's actually excited. But she does go on to say that she is very surprised that Mary is one of the hosts of the trip, because when she thinks of Mary, she thinks of 5-star hotels, luxurious experiences, Dom Perignon, and being bougie, not camping in an RV. And so when they cut to Mary's confessional, Mary says, girl, I don't know how my name got attached to this trip. I wasn't a part of this. Mary said, don't associate me with this broke shit, okay? Mary said, no ma'am, I am not a part of this, okay? This is all Angie's doing, not me. Now, Salt Lake City, I have never had to whack you all about spreads, but y'all tried it. I don't care if you guys are camping, glamping, whatever. I need for the spreads to be up to par. Now, I was trying to cut you some slack because this isn't any super glamorous affair, but still, we should have seen some mouth-watering Greek and Mediterranean food laid out for everybody. But those Costco sandwiches and some Pellegrinos, I said, come on. I said, this was giving Potomac. Potomac does this kind of cheap stuff where they don't have a good spread. I expect more from y'all. And those sandwiches look dry. I said, where were the condiments for those sandwiches? I didn't see any mayo or mustard. You know how the sandwich gets stuck to the roof of your mouth? It's so dry. That's what it was giving. So now Britani stands up and they're like, oh my gosh, like what does she want now? So she's like, well guys, I have a fun activity for you guys. I brought some camcorders since I'm known as the girl who recorded you all last year. I thought it would be fun if we all taped our trip. So she passes out camcorders to everybody, and I have to say that was a really cute idea. So as they're eating, Whitney says, well, this wasn't on my bingo card, but I am happy to be with you guys. And now Heather jumps in and says that she loves being in nature and how it puts everything in perspective. And now Angie jumps in and says, look, we can all admit that it is a bit weird that Lisa's not here. So now we cut to Whitney sharing with the women that although Lisa hasn't shared anything with her, she has been reading stuff online. I said, now Whitney, that's been your biggest issue with Lisa Barlow. You are constantly bringing up some rumors that you heard. You know how this goes. Just leave it alone. But you can't help yourself. You do this every season and then you want to get upset as to why Lisa can't stand you. So Whitney says that Lisa has a lot of people accusing her of some crazy accusations. And now Heather jumps in and says, it's all BS. So now Bronwyn jumps in and says, well, it doesn't sound like that to me. So baby, when I tell you, Bronwyn could not wait to talk about Lisa and bring up all the legal mess that Lisa is in. I said, now, Bronwyn, when Lisa gets on that behind all season long, I don't want to see you crying. So you have Bronwyn saying, it's just interesting timing for Lisa to pass up on a free girls trip. I said, girl, this trip is nothing to write home about. You guys are in the middle of nowhere in a junkyard in an RV. I'd pass on that too. No, thank you. Put me in a Ritz-Carlton or a Four Seasons, please. Now, one thing I can't stand is somebody who talks in circles. I'm very direct. I don't mince words. Mind you, I'm very respectful in my delivery, but I can't stand when somebody can't get to the point or they're too scared to say what they really want to say. And that's Bronwyn. Bronwyn is very passive aggressive and it drives me crazy. She has a lot to say in her confessional, but in person, she folds. Now, when Bronwyn went on to say, for somebody who's always in our business, for somebody who's always talking about, you know, your finances or what your husband does or jewelry and all that stuff, for someone who talks an awful lot, maybe she should spend time working out her issues. So Angie and Heather both clocked that Bronwyn is trying to say something without saying it, and they're not going for it. Angie says, well, it sounds like you want to say something else. And Heather's like, yeah, Bronwyn, spit it out. And I said, thank you. Because we're going around and around the mulberry bush for what? You obviously have some tea on Lisa. You obviously are holding some grudge towards Lisa. So you might as well say what you want to say, sis. So Bronwyn finally spits it out. And she's like, well, I saw that there are 5 lawsuits against Lisa. And then she goes on to say, these are serious allegations about a lot of money. So Heather's like, wait, I don't understand. Like what? Like what lawsuits? I didn't read about it. And you have Bronwyn saying, yeah, girl, everybody's heard about it. Mary says, yeah, I heard about it. Whitney and Angie say, yeah, we all heard about it too. And Heather's still like, wait, I didn't hear about all this. Like, really? Like, I just don't understand. Like, what are you saying right now? Now, you can definitely tell when Heather is lying. She's not a good liar. But also, we do know that she's always wanted to be in Lisa's good graces. So she's not trying to go against Lisa. But it's clear that Heather has heard about these lawsuits, but she's not trying to give this any life, especially since Lisa isn't there. So you have Angie calling Heather out in her confessional, and she's like, no, Heather, these lawsuits are everywhere. You know that you've heard about it. Even Stevie Wonder saw it. So what are we doing here? I said, not Stevie Wonder. So now we see an article clipping that says that Lisa owes $400,000. And then we cut back to Heather saying that she feels uncomfortable hearing all of this. So you have Bronwyn still flapping her gums about Lisa. And now Meredith jumps in and she says, well, let's be so for real. Borrowing money is a part of business. So Bronwyn's like, yeah, but you have to pay it back. It's giving that you are hoping that Lisa is having some financial issues, because the eagerness in sharing this mess and just your tone gives it away. Like, you really can't hide your disdain for Lisa. Now, Angie, I like you and all, but you flew a bit too close to the sun when you said, well, one might say that it's similar to Jen Shah's situation. And I just said, girl, what? Even Heather checked you. She said, girl, what the F are you saying right now? Like, why are you even bringing her name up? So even Angie felt dumb. She was like, you know what? That was a really bad joke. I should not have made that analogy. Like, my bad. And I said, yeah, girl, you wanted a moment and it flopped. Because again, for you to compare what Lisa's going through to what Jen Shah did, there's no comparison. Jen was stealing from people. She stole from the elderly. She is a thief. She is a fraud. She is a charlatan. She is a con artist. And even Meredith jumped in and was like, I don't understand what Angie's saying right now, because one, these aren't criminal charges. It's a civil lawsuit. And two, the state of Utah is not coming after Lisa, nor is the United States. Just a quick side note, I don't want Jen Shah back on the show. When they do release her from prison, I want her to stay wherever she's at. I do not want her to darken our doorsteps with her presence. I think that SLC is doing just fine without Jen Shah. If I'm being honest, Jen didn't bring a whole lot to the show. She was annoying. She was aggravating. She had a horrible temper. She couldn't read. She was like a 5-year-old having temper tantrums. And then to find out that she lied about everything as well, no thank you, let her stay where she's at. So now you have Bronwyn saying, Heather, I know you can't stand me, but what about when Lisa compared me to Jen Shah on Twitter? So Heather's like, girl, I wasn't there for that. Like, that was on Twitter. Like, baby, don't bring me into the equation. But what I do know is you have some nerve talking about Lisa when you just got busted for lying about buying that $4 million necklace. And this was the part that I could not wait to talk to y'all about, because Bronwyn Newport, you need to go and see the lady immediately, because your explanation for why you lied about that $4 million necklace blew me. I said, girl, this makes no sense. This is weirdo behavior. So Bronwyn says, you know what? You're right about that. That's my bad. I should have never tried to sound so cutesy about buying the necklace. So then she says in her confessional that the plan was to buy another necklace and make the women believe that it was the same $4 million necklace. I said, wait, what? Bronwyn, use my BetterHelp code today. Get some help. What are we talking about? And then when you said that you were trying to protect the jeweler and yourself, Bronwyn, all you had to say from jump was you did not purchase the necklace. That's all that had to be said. How are you trying to protect the jeweler and yourself? You lied and you were caught. And that's the real reason why you're mad at Lisa Barlow, because she embarrassed you and exposed you at the reunion. Because Lisa had all her facts straight. She said, girl, I'm actually friends with the jeweler and she told me you never bought it. You're still hurt about her exposing you as a liar and a weirdo. So now you want to expose her. But the joke is on you because you're still a liar. Girl, this is up there with Heather lying about the black eye in season 3. Because again, what possessed you to make a whole story up about that necklace? And then when you said, I should have never thrown my integrity under the bus, but I did it because I wanted to be cool. I said, girl, I know I say it a lot, but it bears repeating. A lot of these women on these shows need to get some therapy. A lot of these women are chasing the popularity that they did not get when they were in middle school and in high school, and it is still bothering them till this day. Because for you to lie like this over something so stupid at your big age, Bronwyn, that's loser behavior. Nobody was judging you if you didn't buy that necklace. We are judging you for lying that you bought it, and now you're finally coming clean a year later and saying, you know what, I never bought it. And the saddest part about this is you are going to still lie like you did buy the necklace had Lisa not exposed you at that reunion. That's the saddest part about this. Bronwyn has to be one of the biggest disappointments because she came in so hot and I was like, okay, I'm loving this girl. And honey, halfway through the season, I said, oh no, something's wrong. I said, something ain't quite right. Miss Girl has a lying problem. And then the whole story about Todd cheating on her, then he wasn't cheating on her. That made no sense. I say, yeah, Bronwyn, it's a chop for me, a mess. So now Heather says, do you know what it's like to not be on a trip and all your friends are talking about you? And I said, now Heather, y'all all talk about each other when somebody's out of the room. So let's not act like this has never happened before. So now Mary jumps in and she says, well, I do. I was actually on the trip a few years ago and Lisa was talking about me. So I just said, yeah, Mary, let them know. They used to talk about you like a dog when you were right there. So again, Heather, let's not act like what's happening to Lisa is a first, because it's not. Now, we all know that Bronwyn is passive aggressive, but another thing about her, she loves to backpedal when somebody airs her out. Because you have Bronwyn saying, look, I'm not trying to say that Lisa is a fraud or a liar or that she stole that money. And Heather's like, no, girl, you are saying that. Don't backpedal now. You're definitely trying to allude that she was doing something foul. So again, girl, don't do that. And Bronwyn, I think that you were realizing in that moment, like, oh my gosh, Heather's going to go back and tell Lisa all this when she sees her, and then I'm going to have to battle it out with Lisa, and it's not going to be pretty. You realize in that moment that you had messed up, because you do know, be very clear, Heather is getting on that phone immediately, and she is telling Lisa all that you said. So we finally changed topics, and now Britani stands up to give an announcement, and of course it's about her and Jared. She says, me and Jared just got engaged. They're like, wait, what? Then she says, and then we got unengaged 2 weeks later. They were all like, girl, if you don't sit your behind down. Now, Britani, we talked about this when I met you the first time in LA. I said to Britani verbatim, I said, girl, you are too cute to be acting like a desperado. Jared is playing games. He's not interested, mama. Why are you doing this? We don't chase men. Do you know what Britani told me? Britani said that present day, they're not together. Now, mind you, that was in July. We are in the middle of September, so there's a good chance that they might be together right now. But when I spoke to her in July, she said that they were broken up for good this time. And she said, it's just really hard because he's such a great kisser. I said, Britani, stop it. You are too grown to be talking about he's a good kisser. There are other men who are great kissers too. What is it with Jared? This is really crazy to me. And y'all know how I feel. I cannot stand a desperate woman. Nothing gets me angrier than a desperado. And the fact that Britani is going out sad on national TV and in her real life for a man who does not want her. But I said, Britani, I really hope and pray that you're still not talking about Jared in 2026. Never let a man tell you more than once that he does not want you. And girl, is the dick that good? Because for you to be showing out like this, I mean, this is pure insanity. And then when you got mad when Heather and Whitney asked, is he single? And you were like, no, like we're still seeing each other. And Whitney was like, when I see him at the gym, he's very much single. Because let's just say that he's not on the machines, he's talking to other women. And then you got mad like no. It's like, honey, what aren't you getting? This man doesn't want you. So now they split up into two groups for activities. We have Bronwyn, Whitney, and Heather going kayaking. Whitney, Meredith, Mary, and Angie going fishing. Cute scenes, not much to say. I did think it was so funny when Mary was talking about giving one of the fish CPR. So now it's time for dinner, and we see the ladies around the campfire, and they're cooking hot dogs and veggie burgers. Now, Angie, you didn't think this all the way through, because we have hot dogs with no buns, no condiments. You had a bag of asparagus, and they were like, well, how are we going to cook the asparagus? We need a grill for that. I said, yeah, Angie. It would have been you and I because you dropped the ball with the whole food situation. So now we have Heather asking Bronwyn if she ever heard of any creepy stuff happening when she was at BYU. Bronwyn says, yeah, of course. So now Heather says, just so y'all know, this canon is notorious for creepy stuff happening. So now she tells a story of Molly Sorensen. She was some fundamentalist Mormon who used to kidnap and unalive girls who were sinning. And I just said, girl, nobody wants to hear that. I would have been irritated. Please, I scare very easily. I don't want to hear about any creepy stuff. Don't tell me any horror stories about some ghost or some lady or some spirit who was killing people. Like, I don't want to hear that. Mary was so over it. She was like, if Molly Sorensen was real, she'd be cooking for us. Mary said, I don't care about your Mormon ghost stories, sis. Where's the food? So now we see Heather helping Bronwyn cook her hot dog. And Heather says, is anybody surprised to see me helping Bronwyn with her food? I think it's because nature puts everything in perspective. So Angie jumps in and says, well, I don't know about nature. I think it's the fact that Lisa isn't here. So now Heather's like, really, Angie? What a shitty thing to say. So Angie wasn't backing down. She's like, but I'm being honest. If Lisa were here tonight, would you be nice to Bronwyn? And Heather says, my stuff with Lisa is not about Bronwyn. Now I will say, Heather has been consistent in her dislike for Bronwyn. She never saw it for Bronwyn when Bronwyn first stepped foot on this show. So I do believe her when she says that my issue with Lisa is not about Bronwyn, and vice versa. So since they're on the topic of Lisa, Whitney jumps in and she says, well, it is hard when you're on the outs. So now you have Britani jumping in, and she's like, you know what, Whitney? It was so messed up of you to say earlier that I do Jared for money. So they're all like, girl, what are you talking about? And Heather's like, Britney's timing is awful. It's like she's not even in the same conversation. And Britney, you do have valid points, but you do need to work on your timing. Because right now, they're talking about their issues with Lisa, Heather versus Bronwyn. You bringing up that comment from earlier, you could have waited to bring that up, just saying. One thing about Britney, when everybody's going right, she's going left. So now Whitney and Britney get into it, and Whitney says, that's not what I said. And I said, well, girl, you said, what do you do for money? Suck dick. So don't sit up here and try to backpedal now. I'm just saying, Whitney, just own up to it. You said it. It is what it is. Apologize and let's move on. So then Whitney says, you came for my business, so I put it back on you, but I am sorry and I'm not proud that I said that. So now Whitney gives us a vulnerable moment and she reveals that her business failed. So then she goes on to say that her and Justin went all in and now they have nothing. Then she goes on to say that she had to fire 30 employees and it's emotionally tanking her right now. She says that she failed her employees, she failed her customers, and she failed herself and her family. This might be the first time in a long time that you're actually giving us a real storyline, because we haven't gotten anything real from you since season 1 when you shared about your father and his addiction. I'm just like, girl, it seems like you and Justin have been going through money problems for quite some time. Because I remember season 3, you said that you poured all your savings into the skincare business and Justin had lost his job. You guys are going through it then. And now to go through it again in season 6, it seems like every season you guys are having money problems. But I will say it was nice that you shared it, because a lot of other housewives would hide this due to embarrassment. So I have to give you a lot of credit for being honest and being real and being vulnerable. But the good part is you are on the show, you're getting paid high 6 figures, you're able to get endorsement deals, so all hope is not lost. You're still seeing some money. So now you have Heather and Angie encouraging Whitney. Heather says that she's had many failures before Beauty Lab and how it's tough and how nobody shows their failures, only their highlights. So now you have Britney walk over and she's like, oh my gosh, Whitney, I'm so sorry. And she tries to give Whitney a hug. Whitney's not going for it. She's like, Britney, I can't give you a hug right now. I can't accept this from you. Like, me and you have to still sort out our issues. Like, I'm not ready to be touched by you. So now you have Britney saying, well, I still want an apology for that dick sucking comment. So they're all like, oh my gosh, Britney, like, let it go. Not right now. It's the wrong time. And I said, well, Britney, I have to be fair. Whitney did apologize to you 5 minutes ago. She did say, I'm sorry that I said that. I wasn't proud of saying that. You just didn't hear her, but she did apologize to you. So Angie says, Britney, you have to stop. You're coming in way too hot. Sympathy first, and then the apology will come later. So now Britney says that she feels like a punching bag of the group. Meredith is like, girl, nobody wants to hear it. So now Meredith goes on to say, the one person who was good to you in this group and you turned on me. So Britney's like, wait, what? Like how? Like me? So now Meredith says, girl, I'm not interested in you. And now her and Britney get into it. So Britney's like, Meredith, really? We talked on the phone. We went out to lunch. So Meredith is like, girl, what? We were never good friends. I barely even know you. And we talked on the phone, what, twice? I said, Britney, girl, I'm going to need you to stop forcing closeness that's not there. Going out to lunch with somebody one time and talking to them on the phone twice does not a friendship make. People throw out the word friend too loosely. At the very most, you and Meredith are castmates. You are acquaintances. That's it. To say that you guys were good friends, no ma'am. You're the type to talk to somebody one time and say that you know somebody. You don't know them. One thing I love about Meredith, she's gonna always give you those soap opera dramatics. She says, Brittany, I don't need a thing from you, and I find you uninteresting, and I have zero respect for you. I said, damn, not zero respect. So now we close out the episode with Heather suggesting that they try and find the ghost of Molly Sorensen. And she's like, we'll take a quick little hike to find her and it'll be fun. Now, as for me, I would have taken my behind in that RV and sat right down. I'm not doing all that, especially not in the dead of night, in the woods. I don't know my way around. No, thank you. Mary had me screaming. She was like, do you notice how the black folks in horror movies always die first? Just off of that alone, I would be in that RV minding my business. I don't play with demons. No, thank you. Like, that's not my type of fun. That's not my type of party. I would have sat out. And I felt bad for them. They were walking in these muddied waters and you hear these faint screams, you hear owls in the distance. And is that even safe for production? You have production walking around with you guys in the dead of night. They can't see anything. Like, I don't know. I felt bad for production in that moment. Like, why can't y'all just sit in the RV, play some cards, have a few drinks, and call it a night? Like, why are we doing all this? Heather talking about, oh yeah, Molly Sorensen is still on the hunt. Like, girl, that's not funny. Then we see all the women freaking out. Meredith is like, oh my gosh, I want to go back home. I don't have any cell reception. Like, I don't like this. Her camcorder falls down, and that's where the episode ends. But guys, when I tell y'all, I really enjoyed this premiere episode. I think that we are in for a treat. Season 6 is about to be that girl, hopefully. Let me not speak too soon, but I do have a good feeling about the season. And I can't wait for Miss Lisa Barlow to come back and grace us with her presence. I can't wait to see her check Bronwyn, because Miss Bronwyn, you tried it. And when Lisa rips you a new one, I don't want to see any tears. I don't want to see you playing dumb. I don't want to see you act so surprised as to why she's upset. Because again, for you to sit up there and try to blast her when you're also a liar, stop it. But yeah, guys, I enjoyed the episode. I hope you enjoyed my recap. And thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all for listening on the podcast. And you already know what to do. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all later. Bye.